My name's Neil Selinsky, and I would like to know your positions on making Ohio a right-to-work state. My position on that is that in the last 15 years, there's been 26 to 28 automobile companies. They're foreign companies, but they have built plants here. They're employing an awful lot of people. But there's not one coming to Ohio, and I don't think one ever will come to Ohio unless we make Ohio a right-to-work state.
Bob, we'll just alternate back and forth. We'll start with Bob.
Okay, yeah, the microphone's on, I guess, just checking. Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, I support that. I'm against the so-called Employee Free Choice Act, the card check. That just be more power to union bosses, takes the workers' rights away. I think, and prevailing wage have always had issues with that too. It's a pretty known fact. I think that workers have the right to, people have the right to a job, and if you're not getting paid what you think you're getting paid, then go work somewhere else. But yeah, I support, and you see that North Carolina is a right-to-work state, and they're doing a little bit better than us, getting employers, businesses down there. So that's one thing. We need to be more business-friendly that way, and let people, work. Let the market supply and demand work.
Don't think it's on.
How's that?
I think so.
When you're referring to the right to work state, and the senator mentioned North Carolina as a right to work state, that's a state issue. It's necessarily a state issue. I would support it in what I know of it and what you described about it, what the senator described about it. But my job as a U.S. Congressman has little to do with the rights that are developed within the state, whether that be right to work or whatever the state legislatures in every state deem their responsibility. At the federal level, it's really simple to me. We need to get the federal government out of the way, and then we will have jobs in our country. Then it becomes an issue for the state to bring industry to their state, not the federal government. One of the problems that we've got, and I won't speak about our incumbent because he's not here to defend himself, but Congress in general, they want to go to Washington, D.C. and bring goodies back to the states. That's not their job. Their job is to protect your rights, the God-given rights, not state rights to work and these various programs that each state has, but your unalienable God-given rights. That is our job as U.S. Congressmen. We do a lot of things. We have the capacity to do a lot of things along the way, such as lower taxes, remove barriers of trade, not only between the United States and foreign countries, but between the states. And the healthcare issue is one that comes to mind there, where the federal government could actually remove barriers so that you can purchase health insurance, which is across state lines, which I'm sure we'll discuss later on. But I think with the way Congress has been running for years and years and years, we always look to Washington, D.C. for the answers when the answers are always right here at home, as long as the folks in Washington, D.C. are protecting our rights and doing the things that they're supposed to do by the U.S. Constitution, namely Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. That's our job description as congressmen. There's a few other things in some of the articles that we're permitted by law to do and required by law to do. But if we remain confined by the U.S. Constitution and protect the rights of citizens, the states can handle most of these other things. And you look to your state legislatures to have programs to bring industry to your state. It isn't the federal government's responsibility. Thank you, sir, for your question.
I was a little remiss here when we started. I want each one of the candidates to give a little biography of who they are, why they're running. Mr. Gibbs?
Thank you. My name's Bob Gibbs, obviously, and I live over in northwestern Holmes County, been there for 35 years now. My wife's back here. We've been married for 34 years, got 3 grown children. I've been self-employed since 1978, mostly as a farmer. I do have a small LLC and do some rentals. During those times, I kind of worked up through in the agriculture community. I was president of the Loudonville Farmers Equity and also president of the Ohio Farm Bureau in the late 90s and served on the Soil Water Board. Also then in 2002, I was asked by our local Holmes County Republican Party to run for the open Ohio House seat, and I did. And I served 3 terms in the Ohio House, and now I'm currently a state senator in the 22nd Senate District. I decided to run for this spot about a little over a year ago because I was so concerned about the future direction of this country after the cap and trade vote and the stimulus vote and the massive deficit spending. And unfortunately, our Congressman Space is a big part of the problem because he's voted and supports all that nonsense where we're risking our national security and mortgaging the future of our kids and our standard of living and our freedoms. And you know, it really goes back to the root problem is the massive deficit spending. It's a national security issue because we're borrowing money from China. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But the second reason it's a national security issue because more and more of these massive deficits, $1.5 trillion, $1.5 trillion plus, adding up the debt, is more than the revenue does come into the federal government has to go for interest to service the debt. And that means there's less discretionary spending, and the number one responsibility of the federal government is our national defense, national security. And that means that that's really discretionary spending. If you think about it, if we don't have the money, the resources to do what we need to get done, it won't get done. And if you think about it, to put that in perspective, we ended the Cold War and the former Soviet Union ended because we didn't fire a shot, we bankrupted them. And we're doing that to ourselves, we're bankrupting ourselves. So we've got to get the economy fixed, and that will empower and restore our freedoms and our security. And how we do that is we got to cut this deficit spending, we got to roll back these massive tax increases, and we need regulatory reforms so we have common sense regulations. If we do those 3 things, we will send certainty to the private sector, and the private sector will be more likely, well, will, because I know there's pent-up demand out there, to invest in their businesses and hire people, get people back to work, and that's how we get out of this problem. Raising taxes is the worst thing we could do, but we've got to get the confidence back, and that's the role of government, to provide a climate for the private sector to flourish, and that's what would restore the American dream, American innovation, entrepreneurship, and create prosperity and jobs and opportunities, and secure our freedoms.
Sorry about that. I'm going to save Dan's arm. I don't need to sign because I'm going to be kind of brief. I'm Lindsey Sutton. I'm the Constitution Party candidate for U.S. Congress. I was born in Harrison County, West Virginia, to some wonderful parents, one of which is here with us tonight, Kathleen Sutton. She's my mother. She just had her 88th birthday this past summer. I guess she's proud of her son. That must be the reason she drove in this horrible weather all the way up here from West Virginia just to visit with me. And the rest of my family, like I said, I won't go into everybody, but more of my family came from far distant places just, I guess, to support me, and I appreciate that. I live also out in western Holmes County. In fact, only just a few miles from Mr. Gibbs' residence. I came to this area following my retirement from the United States Air Force. Moved here in 1991. I was a truck driver at the time. My wife had family in this area. We moved up here. It was much easier for her to have someone nearby that she knew while I was on the road. And first we came to Coshocton County and ultimately to Holmes County. I have 6 children, all adults. My oldest daughter's 37, my youngest daughter's 24, and I have a son who's 29. One of my daughters is here with us tonight, sitting back there in the corner. She's pushed me along in this campaign. I want her to know that I appreciate your help. Leslie, stand up for just a second. She's worked herself half to death in our little campaign here, but she's really done well. I am in this race because the United States of America is in serious trouble. We have a $14 trillion national debt, a $1.5 trillion budget deficit. We have incessant war. For example, since Korea haven't even been declared as wars. and the attenuation of states' rights or loss of our individual liberties, this is why I'm in this race. Because it's my belief that this country will turn around when, and only when, we get back to the fundamental principles we were founded on and the U.S. Constitution that protects our rights by those principles. I think that's what it's going to take. All the other issues that we'll probably discuss here tonight would not even be issues had this country followed, had we, the people, demanded that this country follow the U.S. Constitution. That's my objective. That's why I want to go to Congress. We need people in Congress who understand that and who will protect your rights. We can handle all the other things as Americans if we can get the government out of our way. Thank you.
Next question, Chuck Hara.
Yes, sir. My name's
Chuck Aaron, and I'm from Caddis, and I was just wondering why your opponent, Zach Space, was a no-show yet again. I just wanted to kind of get your views of why he would not appear tonight, and I'm kind of disappointed because I was looking forward to asking him some very important questions. So, without putting you guys on the spot, I would just kind of like to know what your opinions are, because evidently Mr. Sutton and Mr. Gibbs pretty similar ideas on how to steer this country back to our greatness that we had beforehand. Thank you.
Very interesting question. Because yesterday afternoon, how many folks live in this area and heard WJER radio yesterday? We were all three there. Following that event, in the hallway, I asked the congressman, "Are you coming to tomorrow night's event?" And I told him, he said, "Well, don't really have a lot of friends over there." And here's what I told him: I don't have friends anywhere. If you've seen me in the news media, you've seen me on page 4. When they covered the event down in Coshocton, I was standing at the podium and they took everyone's picture but mine. Not that I wanted my face in a picture, but it wasn't even mentioned. The answers I gave to questions weren't even mentioned until page 4. I was completely cut out of it. And I said, so you're saying that you might have some enemies over there? You know, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, suck it up. Because, that's kind of the nature of politics. You should kind of know that by now. But I asked him, would you consider coming tomorrow night? And he said, yeah, I'll consider it. I don't see him here. That's my perspective on the whole thing. Zach, let me tell you about Zach Space, a little bit I know about him on a personal level. He's a very cordial individual. He's friendly. We've talked about fishing and things. He's a nice guy. He's wrong about the direction of our country, only by like 180 degrees, but a good person, a good guy, and good natured and all those things. But he sort of doesn't want to face all the constituents, just certain ones. I've gone to every event. I've been to every single event. I was down here last week at the VFW, and to me, it was a shame that Congressman Space wasn't there, because he is on the Veterans, the House Veterans Committee. And he wouldn't even go to the Veterans of Foreign Wars place. Well, I can tell you right now that they weren't all that hepped up on listening to what I had to say, but I was there and I answered their questions. A lot of them liked what I had to say, but a lot of them sort of, I guess, already had their minds made up. But if you don't get out and talk to the people, if you're not willing to get out here and, answer these questions, if I don't know an answer, I'm going to tell you I don't know an answer. And I've left the house and gone to events, and my daughter back there, Leslie, says, "Daddy, don't be nervous." And of course, I'm going to be nervous, because I'm not used to this. But she can tell you that I said, the whole notion of having courage is being nervous and doing it anyway. I was nervous going to Southeast Asia. I was nervous going to Southwest Asia. I was nervous on doing a lot of things that this government sent me to go do. But I did it, as well as many people, several of y'all in this room. You know what I'm talking about. What is it are we afraid of? If we're going to be a politician, why are you afraid to meet your constituency?
Thanks, Chuck, for the question. And